Matt McCoy, Stan Jackson with you. And over the weekend, we talked a little bit about it yesterday. JT Barrett had what appeared to be a successful debut, so to speak, at rookie minicamp down in New Orleans. Undrafted free agent. Sean Payton had some nice things to say. Joel Erickson, a New Orleans advocate, wrote a piece that I read talking about JT's weekend and the rookie camp weekend. And Joel joins us right now over the phone. And Joel, it sounds like JT Barrett's first impression on the Saints was pretty good.
Yeah, it's really telling after one of those things, because a lot of times after these rookie minicamps, that when they talk about these players, they're saying, "Well, we're just trying to get a chance to look at them," and they don't really rave after just 2 days. But Sean Payton said, he's done well, and he said it with kind of an inflection to let you know he was really impressed with the way Barrett played. He was clearly getting more reps than the other quarterbacks in the tryout. He didn't sign any of those guys, so he's gonna. I'd assume that he's gonna get a chance to go to training camp, barring injury.
What are his chances of making the team? I mean, I see they got 4 quarterbacks right now. Obviously, Drew Brees isn't going anywhere. But Taysom Hill, who I know the Saints liked last year quite a bit, they bring in Tom Savage, JT Barrett. I would imagine they're not going to keep 4. Does he have to beat one of those 2 out here?
I don't know that it's a question of whether or not he beats one of those 2 out. I think the question might be more along the lines of what happens between Savage and Hill. I would assume that if JT makes the team, it's as a number 3 quarterback, as a developmental type guy. And really all that takes is for the Saints to decide that either Hill or Savage, based on what we know now, probably Hill, one of those guys is ready to be Drew Brees' backup, and they don't need the other player, which would open a potential spot for 3. Barrett's athleticism could actually help him if that's the case, because last year one of the things they did with Taysom Hill, who was playing the number 3 role, was he's another athletic guy, and he ended up playing some on special teams and playing well. So there's a chance that JT Barrett could have possibilities that way. But like I said, I think it comes down to Savage and Hill and whether or not one of them establishes himself as the clear backup and lets them get rid of the other one.
Visiting with Joel Erickson of the New Orleans Advocate, talking a little bit about JT Barrett's weekend down at rookie minicamp. Joel, regarding that, I don't know how much you can tell in a 3-day minicamp and guys are in shorts, but the accuracy thing has been hanging over JT Barrett, and people have said that that's why he doesn't translate to the National Football League. Could you tell anything when he was out on the field of, this guy looked okay, or is it, in shorts and T-shirts, it's kind of difficult to tell?
Well, he completed everything I saw him throw, and some of them were, intermediate routes, 15 yards down the field in relative traffic. So there was something good there. And I think the other thing is Sean Payton saying he's done well. The biggest thing Sean Payton values is accuracy. You ask him what he's looking for in a quarterback, he always says accuracy first. So I'd find it hard pressed to believe that he liked seeing what he saw out of Barrett if he's having trouble with accuracy. And like I said, we saw 8 to 10 something passes in our time we were allowed to be out there, and I never saw him miss one.
What is it right now with the Saints organization and the Buckeyes? From Von Bell to Michael Thomas to Marshawn Lattimore, Kurt Coleman, for heaven's sakes, signs as a free agent, Ted Ginn. Is it coincidence, or is there something that the Saints organization right now has tapped into with Ohio State players?
Well, I think with the drafted guys, there's a little bit of coincidence there. The biggest part of the coincidence, I think, is with Lattimore being a guy that they never, ever thought was going to fall to them. He's a guy that everybody liked in the draft. Anybody would have, at least that's what the ratings were. But I think that there is something to the idea that I think Sean Payton feels like he has a good relationship with Urban Meyer and can trust what he's saying. And I think that helps. I think it helps that, when they're doing their due diligence on players and trying to figure out who they are and how they'll fit in the locker room and that kind of thing, that he feels like he can trust Meyer and what he says about guys. So I think that's part of it. And, I think the other thing is just Ohio State has had a lot of really good players at the top of the last couple of drafts. And that's the Saints had a lot of high picks in the last couple of drafts, and I think that plays into it as well.
So much of a rookie or a young player's success is fit. And Michael Thomas, you could not have scripted a better location for him with Drew Brees and everything. And as a second-round draft pick as he was, has he been as good of a steal, I guess, as you could expect? And the Saints have obviously hit some home runs with their drafting the last couple of years, Alvin Kamara and things like that. But Michael Thomas fits into that mold, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was a draft that was supposed to be a big-time wide receiver draft. Corey Coleman, Josh Doxson, and he has far outperformed any of the bigger-name guys. But I think part of it is the Saints. You know, the Saints identified some stuff about Thomas that maybe they don't do at Ohio State that he was going to be good at, and then he came in and really just from the jump was just incredible at catching balls in the air. He's got a good feel for Breeze. He's really physical. You know, this is a guy who's a Pro Bowler, and making the Pro Bowl at wide receiver is about as hard as it gets, honestly. Drew Brees had never had a Pro Bowl receiver that he played with in New Orleans up until last season when Thomas did it.
Wow.
Which goes to show you how difficult that is. Just think about Marcus Colston by himself and how long he was putting up big numbers here. So yeah, no, Thomas has been absolutely incredible. And he's when he comes up for his, I think the Saints are definitely going to pick up his rookie option. But when he comes up for his contract, that's going to be a big number he's going to sign for his second one.
And you mentioned Lattimore, that he fell to them last year, and that was very fortunate. So everybody expected him. He was highly rated, but did people expect him to be this good? He was a game changer really for the Saints defense, was he not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Saints have been looking for a number one corner basically since their inception. And like a true, honest to God, if you want to keep him around for 10 years type of guy. And Lattimore, they had him rated third on their board. But there was all the questions with Lattimore, at least as I remember right, had to do with his hamstring.
Yes.
The Saints felt like his hamstrings were fine. He came in, and I don't think anybody could really predict what he was last year. Last year he was, especially early in the season before, sprained an ankle, and he had a couple of this like small nagging things that just happen in an NFL season. But he really was. I mean, he shut down a couple of very good wide receivers. Devontae Adams comes to mind. Mike Evans is another one. The only guy that he consistently had trouble with was Julio Jones, and I mean,
there's no shame in
count
that.
that against him. Yeah,
exactly.
You can't count that against him. And in those games, even while he was having trouble against Julio Jones, he still picked off a pass in each of the games against the Falcons. So I think that's the other thing. The Saints have had some corners over the years who were pretty good in coverage but didn't take the ball away as much. And Lattimore had 5 interceptions right off the jump. That's huge for a defense. Those kind of game-changing plays is what got the Saints their Super Bowl back in 2009, and they needed players like that. So I think the combination of having a guy who can match up and play really basically anywhere. You know, he went one-on-one against Brandon Cooks, and he went one-on-one against Mike Evans. Very different types of receivers. That's a big deal, and then the interceptions was another huge deal.
Joel Erickson, New Orleans Advocate, joining us. One last thing, Joel, and that is all those Buckeyes that are on the Saints in covering them, and if JT is added to that this year, is there a camaraderie with them? Is it kind of known in the locker room that there's all those Buckeyes? Are they a stick together kind of group?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think the other thing is it's not just Ohio State connection. There's also a Glenville connection.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
That's Ted Ginn and Marshawn Lattimore both went there. There's a special teamer named Justin Hardy who played at Glenville. So I think there's those two twin things kind of give a sense of bond for those guys across the locker room. And really, you can kind of see just their devotion. Marshawn Lattimore tweeted something every single time any Ohio State player was picked in the draft a couple weeks ago. And I think you can see that program has a sense of bond over the last couple of years that you don't see from every other program. Really, the players you see have a fondness for their program like that. It's usually guys from like the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the really successful programs, and that's been the case here.
Well, Joel, thank you for taking a few minutes. Appreciate it very much. And maybe as camp goes on, we'll check back in with you and see how JT and the boys are doing. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no problem.